Hey, we're back. This is John.
And it's Eric.
And it's What If Geeks. We do not have Paul because Paul hasn't watched shit. Paul has had issues catching up with movies, while Eric and I have been painstakingly running to the theater as much as we can. Uh, COVID be damned, and we've watched everything. So we're finally catching up with reviews that we should have been doing for quite a while now. But we took the holidays off, so once again, this is probably about the third video you'll get after the new year. But Happy New Year! And we are going to review Spider-Man: No Way Home because damn, we have to review this fucking movie. So stay tuned. We're going to be reviewing a bunch of other ones like Venom 2 and Ghostbusters Afterlife and Matrix and a whole bunch of shit that we have to catch up on. So I guess we should start with our expectations of this movie, right?
Oh, we gotta. Okay, yeah, we can do it that way. That's fine.
Yeah, just expectations to the trailers and everything. I guess. Well, one. Why don't we just get this off the bat because
Yeah. I think.
Movie without a spoiler review.
Yeah, that's right. It's all spoilers. Even you can't even mention the cast without spoiling a goddamn thing.
Yeah, so you have to like even the trailer spoiled little things here and there, but it was setting up the story, and there was still so much more to this movie. So if you have not watched this, stop here, go watch the movie, come back and sit with us and review it with us. All right. So expectations going in after Spider-Man: Far From Home, right, with the fight with Mysterio, and the big reveal in the post-credit scene where Mysterio reveals Peter Parker is Spider-Man, or Spider-Man is Peter Parker, however you want to say it. And you got a nice little cameo of J.K. Simmons as this version of J. Jonah Jameson. Everybody was hyped, right? So just off of that, you were hyped. And then just the vast amounts of rumors that were going on about this movie.
Which this might be a rare case where I think almost every damn rumor was right.
Yeah, every rumor was right, but so many people had so much fun trying to misdirect things that you even though you knew what was going to happen, you still kind of appreciated it later. The amount of fun that some of these actors had trying to be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Right? and they interviewed everybody. But you had like, it was a slow burn of first it was, oh, some of the old villains are going to come back and they're going to try to do a live action Spider-Verse and all this other shit. And they interviewed Alfred Molina. That was the first leak that came out because I guess Marvel and Sony told him he could talk. And he said, yeah, I'm in it. And that's where it kind of started to go from there. And then the leaks started to come fast and furious, where it was like, this is going to happen to that and whatever. And Jamie Foxx is coming back as Electro. And it was a whole bunch of shit that went on and on and on. And to the point where, while it's, our job in our podcast world to try to like stay on top of this shit, we didn't want to stay on top of the rumors because we were afraid of getting shit spoiled, right? So I tried my best to avoid some spoilers, but at the same time, the info was just too readily available. Right? So finally, like the last week before this movie, like once I knew I bought my tickets, actually I bought my tickets like a month in advance, but like the last week before this movie came out, like right as I knew all the pre-screenings and shit were coming out, I like got off of social media because I knew the shit was going to start dropping. And I'm glad I did. I'm really glad I did because this movie was fucking far and beyond what I expected. What about you?
I think you're spot on with everything you said. I mean, this was despite all the rumors and then even many of those rumors being confirmed after release, I still felt surprised by some of what happened here, right? Maybe not surprised, but just excited. Like, yes, and it was clear that even for me, I saw it much later than you in the theaters. I was a couple weeks, 3 weeks behind you maybe. But even then, I mean, there was still a pretty good audience, and it was clear that that audience was, even if they knew, unexpected or wasn't expecting some of these moments, right? Because there was like certain people walk in, and it's like, whoa, So yeah, I definitely got that feeling. And this, I will have some complaints, some minor complaints as we go through this, but I can always find something to complain about. But no, generally it was really good, and the story was done really well, and they are sort of elevating Peter to an extent anyway, from that high school boyish mentality to like, being a little more grown up and taking the story in a more grown up direction, I guess. But anyway, I thought, first impressions, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I just don't know what else to say, but it was awesome.
I guess this movie picks up pretty much right after Far From Home.
Oh, wait, we didn't do the, do you want to do the deets thing?
Yeah, let's do the deets thing.
All right, so
we know you love your deets.
This was released December 17th in theaters. No direct to streaming. Pretty bold for COVID times, I think, but they would have proved me wrong if I advised them against it.
Very wrong.
Yeah, very, very, very wrong. So this one is directed by John Watts, who is doing the upcoming Fantastic Four. He's directing that, and then he also did Far From Home and Homecoming.
Now, if these three movies are any indication on what he can do with a Fantastic Four, damn.
Yeah, could be quite impressive. I guess we'll see. I mean, he obviously does well. There's a lot of oversight in these though, so I kind of wonder to myself like how much director control there is in a MCU movie that's integrated into the phases like these are now, right? But
yeah, you can almost picture Kevin Feige behind him with his hand on his
so cast is pretty broad on this one. So you have Tom Holland as Spider-Man.
Peter Parker.
We'll make the distinction later. Zendaya as MJ again. Benedict Cumberbatch is in this as Doctor Strange, of course. Jacob Batalon is back as Ned Leeds, his guy in the chair. Jean Favreau is back as Happy Hogan. And then now we're just going to spoiler the shit out of this, even though we've already given the warnings. But so you have Jamie Foxx back as Electro. You have Willem Dafoe back as Green Goblin. I'm sure you know where this is leading. Hopefully you're not listening to this if you haven't seen the movie. Alfred Molina back as Doc Ock. Benedict Wong back playing Wong. Who else is in here that's important? Marissa Tomei back as May Parker, of course. And then
Thomas Hayden Church as Sandman.
Yeah.
And although
neither of them are actually credited though. I wonder if they did it all CGI without bringing in actors.
Well, it was funny too because and we'll get to it toward the end. For the most part, you only see them in the lizard form and in a sand type of form. So I thought the same thing throughout the movie up until the very end.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
their human forms, and I was like, it's kind of weird because you do see them. So I was like, oh, okay, they got them, but maybe they didn't, because Marvel is really good at this deep fake shit lately. That it could be they didn't.
I am not 100% sure if they were really there or not. I mean, I guess for particularly for the lizard, for him to be there in human form with a Spider-Man, I feel like I'm not supposed to spoil, but with one of the Spider-Man, they had to have recorded that, right? They had to. Maybe he just came back by himself, 30 minutes, an hour or something. They recorded that scene and he rolled out, but It had to have been there
Yeah,
for at least
but not
that,
to be
right?
credited in there is kind of weird. But hey, it is what it is. I mean, you had
Uh,
all these villains back.
yeah. So all the big villains, yeah. Um, Andrew Garfield is of course in this as Peter Parker Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker Spider-Man. So, I mean this whole thing. J.K. Simmons playing J. Jonah Jameson, as you mentioned. Reese, is his name Reese Ifans, the guy that plays Lizard. I mean, he
Yeah,
does show up in this towards the end. The rest of it seems like CGI. And then one that I wasn't expecting and caught me off guard, and I don't know that I saw a rumor on it, was Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock.
that was a huge rumor in all the things I was watching, and so since we dropped that on there, I will say this much: everybody was saying that oh, he's going to be in this movie, and then we even said in the podcast that um, Kevin Feige had come out in an interview about a week before this came out, literally a week before this came out. Somebody had asked him about Charlie Cox playing Daredevil, and he said, "I can tell you this: there will be a Daredevil in the MCU, and when Daredevil shows up, there is no other Daredevil than Charlie Cox. So he will be playing Daredevil in the MCU. When, where, how that happens remains to be seen." And that's how he left it. But he did at least confirm for the fans that yes, you're going to get what you want. You're going to get Charlie Cox. Now, if you remember, this dropped on, was it December 17th, you said, right?
Yeah.
Thursday. The Wednesday before that was the episode of Hawkeye that ended with the phone snapshot of Kingpin, and it was Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin. They dropped that in that episode, and the very next fucking day, this movie dropped, and Charlie Cox is Matt Murdock in this fucking movie. I was like, oh my God. Like, they did that so perfect. Like, their timing is just like, for them to be able to weave all this shit together and play like that is, I mean, they're awesome at what they do.
They
So
certainly are. Yeah. So not that we necessarily do this, but it's worth talking about on this one is the box office performance.
oh
Because
my
this
God,
was
yeah.
released
Because
in
like you said, you would have
pandemic.
been wrong.
So yeah, right. I would have thought it wouldn't have done. I expected it to do well, but not like it did. I mean, it's
I
better than
expected it to
well.
do really well because of the hype. But yeah, even like you, I did not expect it to do what the fuck it's doing right now.
Yeah. So it had
Still
a
doing
it
still
had
doing
an opening weekend, right, the weekend before Christmas, basically, is when it
Mhm.
started. Opening weekend of 260 million, which is incredibly impressive. But that isn't really where the impressiveness ends. I mean, 10 days ago, I mean, we're recording this on the 20th. 10 days ago, it surpassed Titanic and Jurassic Park. Um, and a couple others to become the sixth highest grossing film of all time at the box office, right? So,
And again,
and it's not over.
right, exactly. It's still doing it. And because the rewatch factor in this thing is amazing. And I've only been able to see it once, but I want to watch it again. But the fact not only did they do this, would be impressive any year.
Yeah.
Right now is mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean, last weekend, the January 14th, 15th, 16th, I mean, it still grossed 13 for over 20 million just in the weekend. And this past
Yeah.
weekend, right? I mean, even like I'm looking at the numbers
This is a
yesterday,
month after it came out.
fucking Wednesday, yesterday, 1.3 million still. I mean, it's just like,
It's ridiculous because this was up until now. We would say like when we would see numbers like 20, 30, 40 million, we'd be like, it's not bad due to COVID. Not bad. We've been saying that for months now as people have been going back to theaters. Oh, it's not bad due to COVID. It's a COVID numbers. This is pretty good. It would probably do a lot better. That this thing fucking destroyed.
yeah. Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, and I'm glad it did because it's well worth it. I mean, the movie is, like you said, minor complaints aside, the movie is fucking amazing. Pun intended.
Yeah. So we're at 1.6 billion now, and it's 34 days from release. This is planned to run in theaters until the middle of March. So, I mean, granted, things are scaling down. You know, it's $1.5 million a day now, and on the weekdays, you, you know, and 20 million on the weekends. But I mean, this has the
Yeah, but a
potential.
million and a half on a Thursday or Wednesday or whatever. Come on.
Yeah, I know exactly. No, I mean, it's still like 20 million on the weekend, right? And so, you know, this has the potential to probably pass 2 billion before it's out of the theaters, which is just mind blowing. It would be right up there in the top few movies of all time, which ironically are largely other Marvel movies, but
Yeah.
still not during the pandemic.
No, yeah, they have. Usually, we'll say you got to put an asterisk in something because it's a bad thing. Here, you have to put an asterisk in it because it's a good thing.
Yeah, right. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Because could you imagine how much money this thing would have made already if there was no pandemic? Crazy.
Yeah, I think it might surpass Endgame, and
yeah.
So and this is just worth mentioning too. This is all on a $200 million budget, which is not a small budget, but this will probably end up being one of the most profitable movies in the franchise, maybe of all time. I mean, the budget on Endgame was almost double that. It was like 360 million. So you know, they're just tearing it up.
They're killing it. And it's funny too because what this movie did, and we'll discuss it at the end, was the amount of hype it sets up going forward is ridiculous. It's just steamrolling into more money for Marvel.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that's the whole MCU is doing that, but this in particular, yeah. I mean, it's really
it's catapulted it.
Well, I mean, this is, I mean, to some extent, this is steamrolling the MCU story. I mean,
it is,
or the phasing, or however you want to put it. But I mean,
yeah, because they've been tinkering around with the idea of the multiverse, and then this just like blew the doors open. You know, they've been like planting the seeds of this is how it could happen. And it happened a little bit here in Loki, and a little bit here in WandaVision, a little bit here in What If, and then bang. Now you're full blown into it. Now they can do whatever the fuck they want.
Hello, Fantastic Four.
Hello, X-Men. All right, so let's get into the movie.
Okay, so into the movie. So Quentin back framed Peter at the end of the last one, and tells everybody he's Spider-Man. And then you've got J.K. Simmons, who is like the Alex Jones or something in this reality. I like how they set him up, how he's like not part of a big paper, and they don't have to like explain any of the Daily Bugle or right. It's just like
this Daily Bugle is just an online forum instead of a paper forum, and
it's like Daily Caller, or I don't even know. It's just like it's not even Daily Caller because it's just one guy ranting.
You're right. Yeah, in a green screen. It's great.
Yeah.
Because you see him against the green screen multiple times. And it was funny too, because where they do that whole multiverse thing well is he's essentially the same person in a different setting, in a different reality, right? So where the Sam Raimi, J.K. or John Jonah Jameson was the newspaper guru, you know, and head honcho. Here it's today. It's social media, you know, and he doesn't miss a beat, but he's still the same character.
Yeah.
So I like that.
So Peter, MJ, Ned, and Aunt May all get interrogated by Department of Damage Control right after it's revealed that he is responsible for, well, Spider-Man, but also responsible for the death of
The death of
Boba Fett.
Mysterio and the fact that he had control of the drones
Yeah,
and
yeah, which
weaponized drones and which
that,
because this movie picks up right from the end of the last movie, or at least the post-credit scenes of the last movie, and him and MJ make a run for it from the people that realize like, oh, he's right here. What the fuck? And they make a run for it, and they run back to Aunt May, and that's when.
yeah. I don't remember what the specific words were, but it bothered me slightly at the end of the last one where he was controlling the drones and he says like execute them or some weird thing. It's like, man, that seems weird. And now in this, they're making it look like it feels a little contrived that they set it up that way. Like, okay,
Yeah,
sure. But you know, it bothers me even more that Peter doesn't make like even the tiniest effort to say, no, this is all horse shit. You know, I understand he's been revealed and you can't take that back, but to be like, no, I wasn't controlling those drones. It was this dude. Why don't you just look at the facts for Christ's sake? You know, it's Mysterio out here fighting these people and beating them when they were actually just images. Why would I do that? Like, come on.
Yeah. Like if he had actually like brought up the fact that Mysterio used technology to make those threats, then this could have been a quick movie. But
yeah, I know they can't do that. I just sometimes you can write around things a little better.
Yeah. And I guess you could say like he was just too shocked that his secret was revealed and whatever else, and he was on the run because he's a kid. But whatever. So I mean, we're here. We're here.
Yeah, we are. So I don't know if you have anything else to say about the interrogation. I mean, the end result of that is basically, you know, it's all your fault. I think. I mean,
but they do. It's all your fault, and then they do the. Basically, they I guess they post bail because he's back at the apartment.
Yeah, and then that's when you get the Matt Murdock cameo, right? And so he gets all the formal charges dropped, but he can't do anything about all the bad publicity basically that they've gotten, right?
Right, and it's funny too because they had that whole conversation. They cut to the apartment, and the first thing you see is Peter sitting at the table, and the blind cane drop into frame. And I was like, yes, there it is. Right. And then it pans back to Charlie Cox. And he sits down. And he's like, well, you know, we did this, this, and this, whatever. But they go about really, I guess what he says is because Happy sits down next to Peter and is like trying to console Peter. So, like, you know, this is all going to be okay, whatever. And Murdock is like, well, no, because your Stark Tech was doing all this. You're the one they're gonna come after. And Happy's like, what do I do? And Matt Murdock goes, you need a very good lawyer. And then while they're talking, some Yahoo in the street throws a brick through their window. And as Peter sees it coming with the spider sense, right, and looks like he's gonna go catch it, Murdock just throws his hand up and catches it behind his back like it's nothing and puts it on the table. And Peter's like, how did you do that? And he goes, I'm a very good lawyer. Just the fact that, you know, we all know who he is and who Daredevil is, right? And we know Peter doesn't. And like, you know, you've watched the Netflix series or whatever. Just that little play was perfect, right? Like they wrote that perfect. So you know that moving forward, Marvel's gonna do well with the character. You know, like it was just perfect. So yeah, then from there, do we start cutting into the other characters coming in, right? It happens pretty quick. Like everything in this movie happens kind of quick.
Well, so I guess the only little thing that happens before, but it's important, right? So Parker and MJ and Ned all get rejected from like MIT and every other college, which becomes part of the plot later, right? But
because of the extenuating.
Because of the negative publicity, essentially,
Right.
that J.K. Simmons put on them, even though the charges were dropped. So Parker goes to the sanctum to ask Strange for help.
Yes.
And then this is interesting too, because Strange got snapped away. And so they explain here that Wong was the one that actually took over as the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah.
And but Wong is acting in a way where he's just like, kind of like, Strange, don't do that. Don't do that. It's a bad idea. But he's not going to tell him. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I'm leaving. Don't do that.
If you remember in the trailer, they cut it as Wong saying, Strange, don't do that spell. And he goes, okay, I won't. And then he winks at Peter, right? That's in the trailer. That scene doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen here. Wong is still going to their training place. Yeah. Kama Sutra, whatever. Kama Sutra. Where the hell he's going to? But he's leaving and he looks at Strange. At first, he's like, basically like, it's a bad idea. And Strange is like, whatever. Wong basically just tells him, be careful. That's all. He doesn't say, don't do it. He's like, just be careful. And Strange is like, all right, and he's like, good luck. And Wong leaves. So there's no like, he doesn't deny him from doing the spell. He just, be careful. It's dangerous. And they go about trying the spell. And then the rest of it happens pretty much just like it did in the trailer, where he's casting the spell to try to get everybody to forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And as Peter fucks it up by, wait, everyone's going to forget? But what about me and MJ? And what about Aunt May should know it? And because he's interfering with the spell and basically putting these thoughts in there about who should remember who Peter is and whatever, the spell goes haywire, like you saw in the trailer. And Strange is able to contain it, even though it's kind of haywire. And but they realize something's gone wrong, right? So he's like, no, we can't do this. It's not going to work. I'm sorry. And that's when Peter decides to go find the dean of admissions or whoever from MIT.
Yeah, before we skip to that part though, it bothered me that Strange was like, I think I said this to you privately at your house some time ago, but it bothers me a little that Strange would just be like, yeah, no problem. You want to do a spell to like change everybody's fucking memories except 5 people? Yeah, let's do that. It's cool. Like, it bothers me a little that he would do that, because he's the one that's like, so focused on not fucking with shit you don't need to fuck with, right? That's true whether we're talking about the Doctor Strange that they've seen in the MCU, to some degree of the Doctor Strange in the comics. I mean, it just doesn't seem like him.
Yeah, and I agree with you, but at the same time, I guess at least for the purposes of this story arc, the cockiness that the MCU Strange has, I can at least see it. Like I can do this. I can make this work. And then the fact that he did say, like, you saved my life, so I owe you one. Okay, I guess I could let it slide, but yeah, I would agree with you where up until like the whole fight with him and Tony about the time stone and this and that, whatever, where I'll let you all die, in order to protect this thing, like that whole thing. Yeah, he's very stubborn in that point, but I guess here we'll just say it was a bout of hubris where like he just thought he could do this thing and make it work, and he felt he owed Peter something, and I guess maybe it was let me try to help this kid. He's just a kid. I don't know. Yeah, so I kind of I get it. I get your complaint on it, and I agree to a certain extent, but I also the fanboy in me kind of like makes it I can make it a wash where I'm like, okay, I can.
Well, for the value of the rest of the story and what they did, I mean, it's worth it, even to have that sort of hiccup for me. But
yeah, it just seemed very out of character.
We're just talking, but yeah, it seemed out of character to me for him to be like that. It also though seemed out of character for me that he would just accept that he wasn't the Sorcerer Supreme anymore and still
right,
still live at the Sanctum and just be like, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
Wong's in charge.
I do like how they do the passive explanation of all the snow, because everyone was trying to figure out what the fuck was going on. He was like, somebody left the door open to the to the Arctic or whatever. So yeah, all right. So they the spell gets fucked up, and Peter goes after the dean of admissions or whoever from MIT, because MJ said her one shot would be MIT, and Ned's dream is to go to MIT, and Peter feels that they are being punished because he was Spider-Man and they're associated with him. So
Yep.
he wants to try to at least make it right by them, and he realizes she's traveling somewhere, so he gets out to the bridge that she's at, and he approaches her car like while she's like stuck in traffic, and he starts talking to her about it, and she's like, look, I appreciate it, but there's nothing I can do, really, because he basically tells him, tells her it's not their fault that I am who I am. Just, at least give them a chance. You're messing up if you don't give them a chance, And she's like, there's really nothing I can do. I'm sorry. It's just my hands are tied. Everything around you right now is toxic and blah, 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 whatever. And then there's a rumble. And everything starts to shake a little bit, and all of a sudden Doc Ock's tentacle comes out, and just like in the trailer, you see him pop up, and Peter jumps to the top of a car, changes into his Spider-Man outfit, and Doc Ock comes up and looks at him and says, hello, Peter, and they start fighting each other, and it's a cool fight scene there. They go back and forth for a while, and the MIT woman's car gets knocked over to the edge of the bridge where it's almost falling, and Peter's trying to save it, and Doc Ock grabs a hold of him and slams him into a pillar, and like he's getting ready to try to kill him. But while one of the arms has got a hold of him, it starts to absorb the nanotech from the Stark Tech suit, because you see it start to change color, right?
Yeah.
So it comes off of Peter's head, and Doc Ock realizes, he goes, you're not Peter, because he doesn't look the same, So they address that right away. Like, not every variant is going to look the same, right? Much like they did in Loki. And right after that, so Peter escapes and winds up fighting Doc Ock, but saving the Dean and not knocking out Doc Ock yet, but he saves the Dean, pulls her out, and then as they're getting ready to, as he's fighting Doc Ock, then you get the pumpkin bomb.
Yeah, I think you're right. So because of the nanotech off his suit, he's able to like lock up Doc Ock.
Yes, that was it. Yes,
with his phone or something.
And he's able to control Ock's arms.
Yes.
And Octavius is like, what the hell's going on? And he's like, oh, this is cool. And he's moving his hand, and the tentacles are moving. And then the pumpkin bomb comes in.
Yeah.
So now here's fucking Green Goblin, right? Yeah. He's old school Green Goblin, like behind me comes, or not that one, sorry, but the old school Green Goblin comes flying in on his glider, but he's pretty quick in and out in this scene, right? Where basically I forget how he gets out of there. If he throws another one and Peter throws it back at him.
I don't remember, but Strange ultimately opens a teleport and drags Parker back to the Sanctum along with Doc Ock and sticks him in a cell.
Yeah, right.
And then
yes, that was it. Yeah, that's how they get out of there.
Yeah, and then in the cell next to Doc Ock is Lizard Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's
Lucius.
already captured them. But so I think Strange gives him the explanation at this point that before he could contain the spell or whatever, that some people were able to come through from other universes who knew
New
Spider-Man's
Spider-Man was Peter
identity.
Parker. Yes.
Yeah.
Which we're gonna get into that in a second.
So then he tells Parker, MJ, and Ned to go find and capture the others, which among them are Max Dillon, Electro, and Flint Marco, Sandman.
Yeah.
And then of course the Green Goblin who's floating out there. Now, I'm probably going on a tangent here, but to me, this was a massive missed opportunity on MCU's part. So you have Sandman, Lizardman, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, and Electro. That's 5 of the Sinister Six. You could have picked like one of fucking 10 other people, including like the Rhino from the others. It doesn't even matter. Just
Right.
have a Sinister Six. Are you fucking kidding?
Yeah.
Why did you not do that?
Yeah. You were close to it. You were very close to it.
It's like, oh, almost a climax. We ruined it. No.
Blue balls for everybody.
It was really weird to me. Now, perhaps they're leading up to a more formal Sinister Six, but I don't feel like they can now because the way this movie ends. You just lost it. It's over.
Well, you can because of a multiverse. That's the problem.
Well, yeah, I guess, but
or not a problem, but maybe a good thing. You can just.
But they essentially fixed the Doc Ock from the other universe.
But you because of the multiverse, just because you did one thing to this one character, you still have multiversal.
Yeah, sure. I guess there's an infinite number.
You still have the ones from this universe that haven't even been exposed yet.
Yeah. My point is, though, to me anyway, huge missed opportunity. Should have done Sinister Six. You could have brought back the old Rhino. You could have done Vulture again. You could have got him out of prison or something somehow.
If they would have brought back Michael Keaton for this one, I'd have been impressed.
And not to jump ahead, but you could have had Venom as part of the Sinister Six. I don't care. Bring somebody.
I really thought they were going to do that, but they didn't. All right, so moving on from there, Strange basically tells them, you've got to use this device to send them back to their reality, right? We're going to capture them all here. We're going to send them back to their reality. And he gives them a suit, right? So he helps them convert his suit into like this magic suit where the magic will teleport them back to these jail cells, right? Then sends him on his way. So he goes, and in one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in any kind of movie, he just tapes his iPhone to the front of his chest so that Ned and MJ can see where he's going and see what he sees and talk to him. Like, whatever. But it's fine. And he follows the readout for Electro. And that reveal was cool because like you knew from the trailer it was going to be Electro, but the whole in the movie reveal where he shows up at this forest with this power plant and he's trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. And as he's standing there talking to them, like, I don't see anything. And Electro starts to form behind him. You were like, holy shit. And he says, are you guys seeing this? There's a blue guy here. Or whatever he says, right? And then Electro attacks him and they start to talk for a minute. And he's like, Electro even says, like, there's something different. The power is more, right? So whatever it is about the MCU compared to the different Sony universes, the MCU, I guess probably because you have like Avengers and magic and gods and this and that, the power is more powerful, right? Like whatever energy these different beings have is increased. So that's why instead of coming back as the blue Electro from Amazing Spider-Man 2, he is more traditional Electro where he's in a suit and then every time he shoots his bolts, he gets like a little electric version of his comic cheesy costume.
Yeah, costume is
Which is
terrible.
cool. Like they do a really good job of making that a part of this, you know. So, and he tells me, he's like, "You're not taking this shit away from me," you know. Like this is cool. So they have it out for a little bit, and one of the funnier things that happens is like every time like he tries to shoot him with the magic, he's supposed to shoot him with that magic band thing off of his arm, and it teleports him. And the first time he shoots him, he misses and he hits a tree, and the tree teleports into one of the cells. And Ned's like, "Is one of these guys a tree?" He's like, "What the?" And like, "No, it's just a tree." Or I think it was Doc Ock. He goes, "No, that's just a tree." He's like, "No." So he manages to defeat Electro and get him in there, right? Uh, and then does he go right back to there?
For Sandman.
Yes. Yeah. He goes. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah. He goes up to Sandman.
I don't have much to say, but yeah, I mean, he goes and gets Sandman next and rounds him up and brings him back, and
Yeah.
then it goes into the Osborn storyline, which they give a lot more attention to, right?
Yeah. Is it? Do they do the whole reveal about what their fate is going to be before or after he meets Osborn?
I don't remember.
All
I,
right.
th-
All
I
right.
think I think it's after, because first it's Osborn in the alley.
Homeless shelter. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he's in the alley at the very beginning, and he's
Right.
talking
Yes.
to his mask, and
Yes.
then he finally, gets control of himself or whatever and shatters the mask.
Yeah.
And then he goes to Feast where May works, right? And I love how even like they gave him clothes or whatever, but it was like purple and green, like you said, giving nod backs to the comic book outfits and whatever. But so then I think then
Yeah. May calls Peter and tells him, "Hey."
yeah, there's some guy there to see him or something, and Peter realizes it's probably one of the people, or maybe he remembers it is the person, but
Yeah, but the whole
so
time Osborn's talking to him, he's like, he's portraying himself as just Norman Osborn, and he's trying to fight against the other side, the Goblin side of himself, whatever, and basically has Peter feeling bad for him and like trying to, trying to help him, and even May tells him like, this man just needs help. He needs help. So yes, because then Peter and Osborn go back to the cells and they talk to Strange. And Strange is like, "Look, you're going to use this device, you're going to send them back." And Peter's like, "But, what's going to happen to them when they get there?" And Strange tells them, their fate is to die fighting Spider Man.
yeah.
And Peter's like, "I can't let that happen." And he's like, "Well, no, this is how it's got to be. We have to correct this." And that's that whole line out of the trailer where Peter looks at him and he goes, "I'm sorry." And Strange's like, "Don't." And he webs the damn thing and takes it from him and makes a run for it. And Strange chases him out and they're fighting back and forth, left and right. They're going across the trains and all this other shit.
Well,
It was really cool fight scene because Strange does the whole knocking Peter's astral self out of his body,
yeah.
but
I
somehow because of his spider sense and his connection to all that, he's still able to control his body.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that earlier and I forgot. They made a big deal about the spider sense. Like they haven't made a huge deal about the spider sense up until now. And this movie, it's like a major plot point. It's the Peter Tingle.
The Peter Tingle, yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
funny too because I think a lot of the fans complained about like where the spider sense is something that's huge in the comics, it's always helping him. They only kind of gloss over it in all these other movies. And then, like the first time in Infinity War, when he's on the bus and his hair raises up and he looks up in the theater, people lost their shit because there's like those little nods to shit that is important.
Mhm.
So I think that's what the MCU was doing here. It was kind of like, all right, we get it. This is an important thing. We have to focus on it a little bit. So yeah, it's because of his spider sense, even though his astral form is 15 feet from his body, he's able to still control it. And like Doctor Strange is trying to grab the box and he's moving his hands, and Peter's outside his body, like, all right, wait, this is cool. Again, so Strange is like dumbfounded, like, how the fuck are you doing this?
Yeah.
And he gets back into his body and makes a run for it. They do the whole fight back and forth for a little while, and Peter manages to like knock him through one of his own portals and steal his sling ring,
Yeah.
and like leave him trapped in, I don't know, another dimension or some shit.
It's the mirror dimension.
The mirror dimension. He leaves him in the mirror dimension. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah. So then he and May take basically all the villains back to Hogan's apartment, to Happy's apartment. Um, he's able to cure, so he's got this plan to cure them. He's got a Stark Industries fabricator or replicator or whatever the hell it's called back there. But he decides he's going to cure them. He does Doc Ock really quick, right? Like,
yeah, he develops a new chip for him, and
yeah, and then the tentacles stop controlling him,
but now they do a good point here of there's a big talk amongst the villains too, of where Osborn keeps saying like he just wants to try to help Peter and do whatever, Peter, you're trying to help me, I want to help you. And Ock is like, yeah, I'll help. But it's Electro, because he's enjoying the power. He's like, why are you gonna let him basically castrate us? Right? Like, what are you doing? Why? And like he's not sure if he wants to do this. But when they keep explaining to him, like, all reality is gonna break if we don't do this, whatever. So he basically concedes then, but reluctantly.
yeah.
And then he cures Doc Ock with the chip, which was, yeah, like you said, was, I mean, conveniently quick, but it was cool. And then was
I
it right
think I think he starts to fix Electro next.
they put something on Electro to dampen
Yeah.
down his power.
Yeah, and it's like some sort of thing that has to like draw the energy out of him, and so it's gonna take a little while.
Yeah. And while
But
it's going, Electro's like considering his options, and
yeah, and kind of thinking that he doesn't want to be fixed, and
right.
he's saying like, this doesn't feel right. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like this. Something's wrong. Whatever it is. But I mean, it's ultimately the Green Goblin that fucks everything up, right?
Yeah. You were saying Green Goblin decides to play his hand here.
Oh, sorry, I'm having this wonderful coffee and string cheese combo.
Oh, that's
You ever
awesome.
had this?
I've never had that combo, but I love street. So yeah, all right. So
It's terrible.
so Norman decides he's going to play his hand here, right? And goes on the attack. Now,
Well, I mean, it's really Green Goblin though, right? The Green Goblin persona that he has sort of quelled for I don't know, all of 10 minutes of the movie was now back and in control.
well, but there's things that here I want to say. Well, I guess I can save it for the end. Yeah, I'll save it for the end. But there's things there that I'm like, was he really, or was it just an act? You know what I mean?
I actually
It's hard. It's hard to see throughout the movie what, in different parts of it, whether or not it was Green Goblin just acting or was it Norman. And that I think you're right. I think that at least that very beginning part, Norman came back for, like you said, all of 10 minutes, and that was about it. And then the Green Goblin was slowly creeping his way back in and playing everybody. And then now he makes his move and wrecks shop.
Yeah, the thing too is that most of the MCU villains have sort of had like a purpose, right? Like a reason to be a bad guy, some sad story or something shitty happened to them and they're trying to get revenge. The Green Goblin is just a shithead. Like there is really no other reason, but he is evil.
He's evil. He's anarchy, and it's funny because I've seen it before, and I think I've even said it myself, where when comparing the two, the big two, Spider-Man and his Rogues Gallery are most comparable to Batman and his Rogues Gallery, right? Like they're just like, and where Spider-Man may have superpowers compared to Batman, they still have like they have that street level persona kind of thing, right? They're very comparable as far as like between Marvel and DC. And I've always thought the Green Goblin really, other than the fact that sometimes in the comics, uh, he does the Norman Osborn thing where he's got the business side of himself, like a Lex Luthor. I think he kind of combined Lex Luthor and the Joker almost perfectly. And like when he's the Green Goblin, he is like on a Joker level. And I always kind of thought that, but I never had that feeling more than in this movie.
Yeah.
Like this movie, he reminded me of like Heath Ledger's Joker, like just doing shit just for the sake of doing it, just to see what he could fuck up. And then he had a personal agenda against Peter, and it didn't matter what Peter. He just wanted to fuck up life for a Peter Parker. So, and this one was as good as the one he's used to. So, yeah, it definitely had that, like you said, just chaos.
Yeah.
So, and that's what he does here. I forget how he plays his hand. Because Electro starts to freak out,
Yeah.
and then it's like out of nowhere, while Peter's trying to talk Electro down, Goblin makes his move.
Yeah. I mean, I think he tries, I think what he does is he tries to convince the ones that haven't been cured
Yes.
to betray Parker and turn on him. Like it's not for your advantage. He's trying to take away our power, that kind of like you deserve this, that kind of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, very manipulative. Yeah.
And then so Sandman, Lizard Man, and Electro all escape, and then Goblin is fucking wrecking the place. And big spoiler alert. Not that we already
Well,
were that
he and Peter go into it, and like he's fucking Peter up. Like you didn't get the feeling of like you knew he was strong in the Sam Raimi one, right? But here they really show it.
Yeah.
They show it like he is fucking Peter up, throwing him through the fucking ceiling, drop like he's just beating the piss out of this kid.
Yep.
And the couple of times Peter hits him, you see how many shots like he took to the face and he was laughing while Peter did it. Like
that's very Joker there too. You were talking about, right?
Yeah. Well, I was just like, oh my god, he's on another level. So yeah, okay. So then, spoiler alert for spoiler territory. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, the ultimate, the end game of this whole fight scene is that he injures Aunt May fatally.
Yeah.
And Parker ends up coming up to her on the floor as she's dying, essentially. So this is they did an interesting thing here to sort of like tie the motivations of different Spider-Man together, because before she dies, May says to Peter, with great power, there must also come great responsibility. And now,
which is always the Uncle Ben line.
Well, I mean, so originally that was a narrative line in the comics, like way back, like Spider-Man number 15 or some shit. It was just a narration that it was in there. It wasn't even Uncle Ben's line.
Well, they eventually, even in the comics, attributed it to Uncle Ben.
Yeah, you're right.
That's where he got it. But even here, though, in the MCU, like they've never touched on the Uncle Ben thing, but they also never touched on like seeing him get bit by the spider, right? I skipped all that because of Avengers and Civil War and everything.
Yeah.
But there's that thing where in the first Spider-Man movie for MCU, when Ned sees that he's Spider-Man, uh, he's like, "Does May know?" And Peter's like, "No, she can never know." He's like, after everything she's been through. Oh no, he tells Tony Stark in Civil War, after everything she's been through, I can't do that to her. And so, like, they allude to everything you know about Spider-Man, including the death of Uncle Ben and the spider bite and all that other shit. But they never really tell you that story up until this movie. And then he says to MJ at one point in the beginning of the movie, ever since I got bit by that spider, so like they're finally like they're touching on his origins, but still, like you said, it's Aunt May that tells him the great power, great responsibility line here, which is fine, but they still never touch on all that happened to Aunt May and what happened to Uncle Ben and all that other shit. They never touch on that in this, and they might going forward.
They
But
might. I'm not even sure that they have to at this point. I mean, I feel like what
oh,
they did here. Well, so I looked it up, by the way, just because I was curious. So this first appeared in Amazing Fantasy number 15 in 1962. It was a like a narrative block at the end of the comic. It says, and a lean, silent figure slowly fades in the gathering darkness, aware at last in this world, with great power there must also come great responsibility. And then in 2002, Amazing Spider-Man number 38, Ben speaks the line. And then, of course, in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movie, Ben speaks the line. Cliff Robertson. Yeah. So, and then here, right, spoken by Aunt May. But I think what they've done is sort of tied the backstories and motivations of the Spider-Men together. And they do that on the rooftop scene when they're talking to each other. To say, to kind of give you like, what happened to this Spider-Man. He makes a comment to our Spider-Man, to the MCU Spider-Man, right. And there's a connection there, and you get it right away. Like, oh, okay. So I don't even know if they have to go back and explicitly tell you what happened.
No, because I agree with you.
The end result is the same, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like I've always said, and we'll get to it at the end of this thing. Up until this point, this MCU Spider-Man, while he's probably my favorite one, and I think that's a lot to do with Tom Holland as an actor. As far as comic accurate, he's the least, because he was Tony Stark's protege and all this other shit up until this movie, right? He's been the least Spider-Man. He's been Iron Spider, really, like the whole, but we'll get into more of that at the end of the episode. But I don't think they have to go over everything else. I mean, they do a good job of it here. And damn you, you killed Marissa Tomei, so fuck you. You finally get a hot Aunt May and you fucking kill her. But okay, so she dies, and the cops coming in, and I guess Happy he drives his car in between the cops in the building and sees Peter with Aunt May on the ground. And again, remember, here there was a point there where Happy and Aunt May were dating, and then they broke up, whatever. And when Happy sees him with her, he realizes everything that's happened, and so there's a lot of shit he's going through. And the only thing you get out of this poor bastard is run, Peter. Like you've got to go. Like he still cares about this kid. Like you have to fucking go. Like they're gonna kill you. So the cops start shooting at him, and he takes off and he runs, right? So then he's gone, and I think it's MJ. MJ, and then we cut to MJ and Ned in Doctor Strange's little lair, and Ned has the sling ring that Peter gave him, right? Because he took it off Doctor Strange. And remember, Ned made a comment after meeting Doctor Strange about, oh, well, my grandmother said we have like magic in our family or something like that, right? Yeah. And Doctor Strange is like, oh, that's cute, whatever. So they're talking, and MJ is like, well, I mean, 'cause he says like Doctor Strange uses this thing to open up portals, and she's like, do you think we can find Peter? And he's like, I don't know. And she's like, well, try it, you know. So he starts like to try to do like he was doing this. And if you notice in the movie, because he fucks it up later on, but if you notice in the movie when he does it the right way with the sling ring on the right hand. He turns the right hand to open the portal, and later on when he tries to do it, he fucks it up. It's because he's turning the wrong hand because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. But he starts to concentrate and go, show me Peter, which I thought was a very phallic, funny line. Uh, but he waving his hand, and a portal starts to open, and it opens up on an alleyway. And again, this movie reminded me why Ghostbusters did too, but this movie reminded me why I love to go to the movie theaters and watch it with a lot of fans,
Yeah.
because you get that pop in the theater, you know. When the thing opened, I don't know if it was just the shape of the silhouette or because people just picked up on it right away, but you see Spider-Man in an alley, and he turns and he looks at the portal, and he starts to come through, and as he turned, the whole theater lost their shit, right? And the Spider-Man jumps through, and you see it's Amazing Spider-Man suit, right? And he gets through and he pulls his mask off, and it's Andrew Garfield, right? And
So
everybody lost their fucking mind in this theater.
yeah, minor complaint again, just real quick on this one, but okay, so you have a Spider-Man that
Has
came
been
from
doing
a
this for
different
while.
universe, has been doing this for a while, and isn't his identity isn't revealed outside of a few people. And so the portal shows up in an alleyway. He jumps through it, does not recognize the people on the other side, and immediately pulls his mask off. Now I realize that they did that for effect in the movie, but come on.
Yeah, I know. I know. I know. Now, all right, okay, a caveat. Does either one of them say Peter right before that?
Yeah, I think they do.
Okay, so maybe we'll give them that one. We're giving
Maybe.
them a lot. We're giving them a lot of little things here and there. But
Yeah,
we'll give
no,
them that one. I think
again,
one of them
it's-
goes Peter, and then he pulls his mask off, like, how the fuck do you know who I am? And it's Andrew Garfield. And like I said, the theater lost their shit, right?
yeah.
So
Same in my theater.
now again, one of the funniest moments in this movie is this entire scene, just between the three of them. When they're like, he goes, you know, Ned's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm Peter Parker." And they're like, "No, you're not. You're not." And MJ starts throwing shit at him. And he's like, "Stop that!" You know, is this his nonchalant like, "What the hell are you doing?" And they're like, "You're Spider-Man, yeah." "You're Peter Parker, yeah." Like, prove it. And he's like, "I don't have to prove anything." And she's like, "Prove it." And she throws something again at him. And he jumps up and he's holding on to the ceiling. And she's like, "That's not enough. Crawl on the ceiling." And he goes, "No." And his whole like, "No, this is enough. How is this not enough?" Like that whole thing, that whole interaction was amazing. And Ned's grandmother walks in while Peter starts to crawl on the ceiling. And she's like, "Oh," you know, and he's like, "I'm sorry." And they do the whole thing where she's like, she speaks in Spanish, and Ned's like, she asks us while you're up there, "Can you get that cobweb that she can't reach?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, sure." And he goes over and he pulls a cobweb out of the fucking corner. He goes down, and they're talking for a little bit, and they realize, okay, I'm Peter Parker, but he explains, like, he's like, this, I got sucked into this thing. I've been trying to figure out what the hell's going on or whatever, right? And then they say, like, "Well, you're not our Peter. There's a Peter here. Like, try it again." And I will tell you, I laugh because right at this point, Noah had dropped a bag of fruit snacks right in between the seat and the arm of the seat, and he was like, you know. So I tried to get up and hurry up and grab them out from under the damn recliner, but I couldn't reach it. And that was when Ned was like doing the second, "Show me Peter, show me Peter." And Heather is like smacking me on my back, right? But at that point, I was like, I already knew, right? Like I knew what
Yeah.
was going to happen. So, but I was like, he said, I know, it's okay. I know I'm going to miss it. I'll watch it again at home. So I grabbed his fruit snacks and I got up just in time to have Tobey Maguire have already come through the portal. So I missed that. I heard everybody cheer so I missed him coming through the portal for that one. But so yeah, so they bring in the original Spider-Man, right? Now he's here. So you got the original and then the second Spider-Man are there, and I guess I guess the two of them, MJ and Ned, fill them in on what's been going on, right?
Yeah, I think
Basically,
so.
basically they fill them in, and the two Peter Parkers are like, okay, well, does he have a special place he can go? And each one of them kind of tell them where their spot was in their movies, where they would just go and think. And MJ is like, I think I know. And it's the school rooftop that they would go hang out at.
Yeah.
We cut to Peter on the roof crying and
Yeah.
just broken. And go ahead.
I was just very minor thing, but his grandma is not speaking Spanish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's Tagalog. He's Filipino, like
Oh,
other side of the Pacific Ocean.
I'm sorry to our two Filipino listeners.
It's not a big deal.
I would know as soon as I looked at him again. As soon as you said he was Filipino, I'm like, yeah, he's Filipino. Sorry. Whoops.
So the rooftop. It's all right.
Yeah. Ned and MJ show up on the rooftop with Peter, and they go and they hug him, and basically he says something like, I couldn't do anything, and they're like, it's okay, and then MJ said, there's somebody here. And they do one of the coolest scenes in the movie, or yeah, there were a lot of cool scenes in this movie, but they do one of the coolest scenes when she says, there's somebody here to see you. The camera pans up above their heads to like the little bell tower on the school, and you just see two silhouettes. And again, the theater fucking lost their shit because they're kind of like in the creepy crawly Spider-Man pose on the bell tower in the dark, and the two of them jumped down. And it was funny too, because to me, I was like, I was excited about the scene, but I didn't lose my shit like everybody else because I was still like, well, Tobey Maguire is still in civilian clothes.
Yeah.
Not even like dressed yet, right?
Yeah, I was slightly bothered by that too, but I guess they had to have some way to differentiate the three, and if they were all in costume, it could have been like, fucking what is that?
Yeah. So the three of them meet, and I will say every interaction you have from the three of them throughout this movie from this point is it's like it's gold. It's like just from the cavalier, like, okay, we're variants of each other and we're basically family, to the comedy parts of it. Like everything was perfect. Like they did a really good job with the writing in this whole part.
Yeah, I mean, this rooftop thing was what I was talking about earlier too, where they sort of just like bring the stories together, because the Peter 1 and Peter 2 and 3 are sharing with Peter 1, their stories of losing loved ones and whatever. And this is kind of where they put the things together. And I forget what the line was, but he says something and he's like, how did you know? And then they kind of making that connection, like your May is like my Ben, it's
yeah, they do that whole thing where they try to basically, like, again, like I said, like they kind of like they act like they're family even though they just met because they're the same person. And they do that whole like two older brothers that have been doing this for a long time looking out for the new kid, that's just starting, and like and they do that really well. And it's funny because you get that feeling without them explicitly saying it, like where they're just like, look, this is what we did and this is what we went through and all that shit, and we get it, and it's hard, and they do all this thing. And when he explains to them after he kind of clamps down his feelings, he gets down with and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man tells him, like, look, you gotta rein it in, because is bad. And then Andrew Garfield says, like, I got dark, I got really dark, and I stopped pulling my punches, and you can't do that. Like, you can't, it's just it's not going to go well. So they basically discuss what the whole plan was to try to cure them, and one of them says, well, there's three of us, we can figure it out. So they go back to Happy's place, right? Or wherever, and they start working on.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Happy's place, but they went back somewhere to work on the cures. Yeah.
Yeah, because Toby's like, well, after my fight with Norman, I never forgot about that, and I started thinking about a way to cure him. And Andrew's like, well, I already cured Lizard once. He's like, I can do that again. It's easy. And then they work around whatever, and the three of them start working together. And it's a cool little like lab sciencey montage thing where they're all working on stuff. And Ned goes, Peter, and they all go, yeah. And there's that whole comedy thing where they're like, no, we're all. He's like, no, Peter Parker. Like, no, we're all Peter. Well, no, okay, our Peter, that one, that one right there. Like they do like all that shit, which is funny.
Yeah, well, so that is a throwback and then some, right? Because there was the Spider-Man double identity or whatever it was, cartoon from like late 60s or whatever, where
it's
villains
the
trying
meme
to
where they're pointing at
imitate
each other.
Spider-Man. Yeah, and then there's the meme which was jokingly included in Into the Spider-Verse or something, where there's three Spider-Men pointing at each other.
Yeah, and then they actually do that in this movie.
Yeah, they essentially do that. The
shot.
three Spider-Mans. Yeah, which one are you talking to? This one, this one, this one?
Yeah, they do that in this movie. They do it twice because there's the shot of them on the roof together talking to each other, and they're all pointing at each other. It's like right out of that meme. It's amazing.
Yeah, Andrew Garfield talked about it on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast. Talked about this specifically. Like they were trying to come up with a way to do the pointing meme thing that would be like make sense,
Right.
And so when they were filming this particular scene with the lab thing, Garfield said that's where he came up with it. He had to go tell the director, this is it. This is where we're going to do the pointing thing. So they included it in here.
And it made perfect sense to do it there.
Yeah.
But, and there is also another thing that I think could be a setup for later too, but is also a nice nod to the comics, regardless if they never do anything with it. Well, Ned is sitting with the different Peters working. He rolls over next to the original Toby, and he's looking at him, and Toby just kind of looks at him like, and Ned goes, so I'm this Peter's best friend. And Toby's like, yeah, I know. He's like, did you have a best friend? And Toby goes, yeah. And he's like, so what happened to him? He goes, well, he tried to kill, or he turned evil, and then he tried to kill me, so I killed him. And Ned's just like, what the fuck? Right? So like later on, there's a shot where Ned and Tom Holland Spider-Man are talking, and Ned goes, I just want you to know I will never turn evil and try to kill you. And which is funny because I pointed out before that Ned Leeds in the comics is Hobgoblin.
Yeah.
And if you actually look at the actor who plays Ned in this thing now, where he's been this pudgy kid this whole time, lately he's in shape. Like he's lost weight. And I don't know if they're actually going to push that, but oh my God, if they do, it's going to be incredible.
I don't know if that would make a lot of sense with this Ned, but maybe.
Who knows? I mean, so far they haven't done anything wrong, and like I said, like now all of a sudden he's in shape. So even if it's just that one little nod where I will never turn evil and try to kill you, that was funny, right? I was like, wow, that was amazing. So yeah, so they come up with all the cures, right?
And yep, and then they devise a plan to lure the villains to the Statue of Liberty, which is being redone with a Captain America shield, and it's under construction or whatever. Yeah, I forgot to mention it too, but there were little Easter eggs scattered throughout this movie, and I wish I had a list in front of me, but there was one at the beginning I totally forgot about. I meant to mention, like when he's doing the swoop in and he's getting at the very beginning of the movie, like the opening scene stuff. And there's an advertisement on one of the billboards on the left side of the screen for Rogers the Musical.
Yes, yeah. There's so many Easter eggs. We might actually have to come back and do like an Easter eggs you missed episode or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's a shit ton. There must be 20, 30 Easter eggs.
Yeah.
In this movie,
But
at least.
You know, it might actually be a fun episode for like me, you, and Paul to do like Easter eggs you missed in various movies and just do like that kind of random shit. Something, I don't know. We'll come up with something.
Yeah, there's even other things that in this that may have been sort of Easter eggs, but not quite. Like the Flash Thompson, the friend, or not the friend, the guy that was with Spider-Man in the previous movies, but he didn't believe that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, and that guy, Flash.
Yeah, Flash Thompson, yeah.
He releases a book in this one, since he's now known as, he releases a book in this one called Flashpoint. I was like, oh, that's that fucking DC Comics thing.
Yeah,
you guys have been watching that crossover event centered on the Flash, right?
Well, it's funny
that was just ironic,
but Marvel has been doing that a lot lately, where like you said, and I finally watched Eternals, where the kid's like, oh my god, you're Superman, to Icarus, and he's like, yeah, I saw you with the laser bolts out of your eyes and the cape, and Icarus is like, I never wore a cape. But like they reference DC a lot lately, like they're not afraid to do that, and it's kind of cool. Where like it used to be back in the day they would never reference each other at all, and now they're just like they're having fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's other things too where it just could be total happenstance, but made me like think of other movies and stuff, like MJ having the waitress job. Like that seemed really random. Like, why the hell is she working at this random place? But in Raimi's trilogy, their MJ is a waitress, if you remember, the one Kirsten Dunst plays. And I just wondered if that was like another like sort of Easter egg throwback thing. It maybe has nothing to do with nothing, but just seems like it.
No, it definitely could be. All right, so we establish cures for everybody, right? And then
they lure him to the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, because they load up a video or something telling them, hey, meet me at wherever. And so the three Spider-Men show up on the Statue of Liberty, and that's where they do the whole because when they're shooting webs at each other, that was another funny scene when they're shooting webs back and forth. They turn around to Toby and they're like, what the hell? They're like, no, he's like, I just shoot them. And they're like, no, we make ours. And he's like, because they're recharging cartridges and they're going to hand him one. And he looks at him like, the fuck is that? And he's like, no, that they come here, and he shoots. And they're like, how do you do that? And he's like, I don't know. I just, it's part of what happened. And Tom Holland's like, did they come out anywhere else? Tom McGuire's like, no.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah, there's a lot of funny little things like that. So the three of them are up on the Statue of Liberty, and I guess you can stop and we can jump back if we miss anything, but Lizard, Electro, and Sandman all show up, right? And we get back to that trailer shot where they're going to try to take him down, and the three of them are trying to like fight, but they keep getting in each other's way at first, right? And then they reconvene back on the scaffolding, and they're like, this is not working right. And like, we're too used to working as an individual hero, and we got to work as a team. And Tom Holland goes, well, no, it's okay. I know how to work as a team.
Yeah.
I was part of the Avengers. One of the funniest lines in this fucking movie. He's like, I was part of the Avengers. And Tobey Maguire goes, that's awesome. You were? And Tom's like, yeah. And they're like, what is that? And he goes, what? He goes, what is it? And Andrew goes, is it a band? Were you in a band? He's like, no, you don't have Avengers, and they're like, no. So they figure out how to work as a team, and they decide, okay, we're gonna take them down one at a time here and there, whatever. And that's where you get that iconic shot from the trailer, which we called when we reviewed the trailer that it was going to be photoshopped to get the other two Peters out of there. It was when Tom Holland is flying through the air and the three of them coming at them. It was actually all three Spider-Man. But you did get a really cool shot right before that, was the three of them run, jump, and you get the three Spider-Man web slinging off of the statue, which again was really, again, a lot of cool shots in this movie. Just to have like your three heroes that you've been dying to see team up in this movie, and it's actually a reality, and you see them doing this shit together. The three of them go up against the other three, and that's where Andrew Garfield kicks Lizard in the face, and, and you get your Brazil trailer that was the second too long. So they fight off they fight a lot. It took a while for them to get to where they actually cured anybody, but they eventually cure Lizard and Sandman and Electro.
Well, they cure Lizard and Sandman. Spider-Man.
Yes, Lizard and Sandman first.
Yeah, Spider-Man 1 and 2 do their respective villains or whatever, and then Doc Ock shows up to help them get Electro because they're having
trouble.
At
first Electro is fucking them up, and Doc Ock shows up and he grabs them and he looks at Electro and he's like, I got this. And then right as it looks like he's gonna kill them, he turns on Electro. And they all fight and he winds up curing Electro, right?
Yep. And so
it comes down to the Goblin.
And then it comes down to the Goblin, right? So, and then at about that same time, Ned figures out how to open a portal to the mirror dimension to let Doctor Strange out, who's gonna join the fray. But before he can do anything, I think the Goblin unleashes the spell that was contained in the
he blows up the box,
whatever that thing is called.
Yeah, whatever that little box is, he unleashes it. So all of the multiverses are starting to converge and it's cracking open in the sky, which was also a really cool effect. Which again is among our Easter egg video. We should try to go get screenshots of this as you're watching it. And I missed a handful of them, but I've seen them in YouTube videos later. They are like made out of stars, basically. But if you look at those individuals that are inside those cracks, you can make out different Spider-Man villains. Like you can make out Kraven and one that might be Black Cat and one that might be Madam Web. And there's all kinds of different things. And there's like ones that kind of like, and they look right at the rift, like they're going to come through.
Yeah, Kraven, Scorpion.
There's a bunch of them.
The actual Rhino, not whatever.
The one that looks like a normal Rhino.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a bunch of them.
A lot of them in there. There's a whole bunch of them in there which again was really cool because who knows what the fuck could happen later. So Doctor Strange is busy trying to contain this portal, and Peter, Tom Holland, winds up fighting Green Goblin down. The shield has fallen off of the statue and is laying in the river, and they're fighting on top of the shield, and he's losing his shit, like just beating the piss out of this guy, and they're fucking each other up, and he picks up part of the glider, and it looks like he's going to like stab the fuck out of Green Goblin. And going back to, when they told him, don't go down that path, you don't want to go down there. Right as he's getting ready to stab him, the original Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, jumps up and grabs it. And he's standing in between him and Green Goblin. He's holding the glider. And without saying a word, the directing in this thing is really cool because the look in his face, to Tom Holland, and then Tom Holland's acting too, like he wants to do this. The look in Tobey Maguire's face to Tom Holland, like, no, and he's holding it like he's like, yeah, and you get all of that in just a look. I understand where you're at, and you can't do this, and he holds it up until Tom stops, and right as he stops, all of a sudden this little and Tobey Maguire gets stabbed in his back by Green Goblin, and you're like, motherfucker. And I was waiting because I was like, God, they're gonna kill one of these motherfuckers. I was like, I know something's gonna happen, something bad's gonna happen. And Green Goblin stabs him in the back with a knife or whatever, and he drops down. And I guess Tom just turns around, punches him, knocks him out. I forget what happens exactly, but
I
somebody
think,
hits him.
yeah, I think the other Peter,
Garfield.
Andrew, yeah, Andrew Garfield, comes over and injects the cure thing in his neck.
He jumps in and injects it. We missed a major thing in there. As Goblin's attacking, he blows up part of the scaffolding, and MJ falls off. And she falls off backwards, and she's looking, and Tom Holland goes to get her. And when he goes to get her, he gets knocked out of the way. And Garfield jumps and goes down. And there's a whole thing where it's very reminiscent of his movie where Gwen dies.
Yeah.
And he catches her. And when he catches her and he lands, she says, she's like, thank you. And he breaks down crying. And like, you could hear in the theater, like people like, oh, like that moment for him that was really cool. And even he said it in an interview too, that that redemption for his character to not be able to save Gwen, but to be able to protect his brother from the same fate he went down. It meant a lot to him as an actor to be able to do that. And he said, like, when they wrote that, he said actually that was the scene that got him to come back and play the role. When they said, this is what we're going to do, he was like, I'm 100% in.
Yeah.
It was a really great scene. Like, I got choked up. Just he acted the hell out of the scene. It was perfect. But then so you go on and they're fighting, and Toby gets stabbed, and then Andrew comes in and injects him with the cure and cures Green Goblin.
Yeah.
So then Tom jumps back to Doctor Strange, and Strange is like, they're coming through. Like, everybody's coming through, and it's going to be a mess. So, and the funny part was too, where right as he's leaving, Andrew picks up Toby, and he's like, because first, like, are you okay? And he's like, I've been stabbed before. And he picks him up, and he's like, because he played it off at first. He's like, I've been stabbed before, I'm okay. And when Andrew picks him up, he looks at him, he goes, you're in excruciating pain, aren't you? And he's like, yeah. He's like, it fucking hurts. So Tom Holland, Spider-Man, was talking to Doctor Strange, and Strange is like, you can't do anything to stop what's going on. So he goes, the spell was broken, so I can't fix the spell. Because he's like, can't you redo the spell? He's like, I can't redo it. It was broken. That it's not going to work again. So then Peter says, what if everybody just forgot Peter Parker? And Strange looks at him, and he's like, that's insane. But you know what I mean? Like, he's like, he gets what he's trying to do, but like, you can see, like, don't do that to yourself. It's kind of like, what he's saying. And Peter's like, just do it. He's like, it's the only way we're going to stop this. Do it. So Strange is like, basically, like, he says something like, look, thank you, to the kid. But, he tells him, like, I forget exactly the lines that happen right here in this point of the movie, but it's basically Peter saying, like, look, I know that shit's about to suck for me, but this is the only way we're going to save this. And Doctor Strange recognizing that in him and gaining more respect to him, even though he's not going to remember who the fuck he is. Mm-hmm. And so they had that, like, they had that last moment together where he's like, you don't have long, go say your goodbyes. And he starts that spell where everyone's going to forget Peter Parker ever existed, period. So he starts that spell, and the rifts start closing. Peter goes around says goodbye to the two Spider-Men. Yeah, and then they disappear. The other villains start to disappear to go back to their own universes. We'll get on that later. And then he goes back to Ned and MJ and tries to explain to them what happened. And she's like, "I don't want to forget you." And he's like, "Look, it'll be okay. I'll come find you. It'll be all right. We'll figure this out. But this is the only way to do it." And then the spell washes over, and I think it's like it shows him taking off, and that's it, right? And then we cut to the apartment.
Yeah, I think after that, everybody goes back to their universes. And then it's like a couple weeks later, Parker is visiting MJ and Ned at that breakfast diner or whatever. He thinks he's going to explain to them and reintroduce himself, but he's sort of realizing that everything's better for them the way it is. Yeah.
And then he sees the bandage on her head from when she got hurt in the fight, and he decides that like he's too dangerous for her. So
yeah, so he doesn't say shit. He has a I think he has like a little speech explanation written out or something on his piece of paper, and he just like crumples it. It's like he's not even gonna try.
Yeah.
And then he just leaves, and then she realizes something is off, and she keeps looking at him like, what is it? But nothing happens anyway. And so then he goes to May's grave, and Happy is there. And I can't remember what Happy says to him, but something
he says, "How did you know her?" And Peter says, "Through Spider-Man." And Happy says, "Yeah, me too." And then and I'm sure they'll explain that further on later. I mean, it was enough of a connection there because obviously Spider-Man still exists and whatever and blah blah blah. But yeah, so like they don't know each other and they don't know how they all both know Aunt May, but yeah, all right, we knew her through Spider-Man because she met Spider-Man through fundraising or whatever, and there was that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, basically, then they both just say how great she was, and there's
yeah. Well, and I think that's the trigger for him to sort of pick the mantle back up and continue being Spider-Man.
Yes, yeah. When it's basically something Happy says that it's like after it was the whole, we met through Spider-Man, and Happy was like, basically like, yeah, and then he explains. Happy says something about how great May was and how much she tried to help people, and that kind of pushes Peter to go back to being Spider-Man again. All right, so after at the grave, Peter goes and rents an apartment, and you don't even really see his landlord. You just hear, rents due the end of the month, and Peter nods, and he walks in and sets his stuff down. And it's very like it goes back to the like your old school Spider-Man, like Tobey Maguire kind of touched on it in the Sam Raimi movies, where it's a rundown apartment in the middle of the city, whatever, he doesn't have much, right? And then he just kind of like it cuts back to him, he kind of smiles, and then it cuts to, I guess, the sewing machine, right? You see the sewing machine and a little bit of like red and blue material in there, and then it cuts right out the window, and you see, and it's very quick. You barely get a glimpse at what he really looks like, but you see him swinging through the city as Spider-Man. But his costume is the bright red and blue from the comic, and it's probably the most comic accurate portrayal in the movies so far. And you only see it for like 30 seconds.
Yeah, I liked in this movie how many different Spider-Man costumes we got to see, and
sure.
in a sensible way. Like they did everything from cheap looking wrestler Spider-Man to Iron Spider-Man to the comic accurate, like you're talking about, kind of sewn suit.
Well, I loved
business.
before Tony came around, he was just like in a sweatsuit kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
It goes back to because that one even looked very similar to Tobey Maguire's wrestling attire, right?
Yeah, the
Like,
wrestler one, yeah.
yeah. And I've always like when they first, all right, when the original Spider-Man movie came out with Tobey Maguire, so not the original, but the original mainstream one. Um, when that suit first showed up on screen, I was like, wow, they did it. And then, Andrew Garfield came out, and I was like, wow, they did a really good job with this one, too. Tom Holland, his Spider-Man costume was cool. And then the Iron Spider thing was like, wow, they really did the Iron Spider thing really well. That last 30 seconds of this fucking movie, I was like, somebody finally nailed the comic Spider-Man. And it was literally 30 seconds. And I was like, and he's gone. He's fucking gone. Like he's zipping through the cityscape for like 30 seconds and then boom, credits. And I was like, motherfucker, he's right there. Like I can't wait for this next movie now. So yeah, like that costume. I cannot wait to see them do that costume, like in a full movie. It's gonna be epic. But it brings you. So everything that we've done right now brings you, granted, to a Peter Parker that nobody knows. So that's a little different from the comics, but it brings you to. It solves my one complaint about the MCU Spider-Man. My one complaint about him has been he's always been Tony Stark's protege. You are right back to a new jumping off point now for a Spider-Man that is his own hero. His like he's down on his luck. All what makes Peter Parker Peter Parker. So where I don't know. I guess I would have loved for if the MCU had full control over Spider-Man to be able to tell that story from radioactive spider bite all the way through. I think it would have been very comic accurate and would have been perfect. It took us 3+ movies, including the appearances in Avengers and everything else. It took multiple movies to get to where we're at now, but I cannot wait to see where they're going. And on that note, Kevin Feige and Amy Pascal both came out and said that they're already sitting down and planning out. They've already got the plans and they're fleshing out the next 3 movies. And Tom Holland is ready to go. So I'm like, what more do you want? Right. And actually, technically, I think that apartment scene was the first post-credit scene, wasn't it?
No,
There were two in this.
Yeah, there were two. There was the mid credit scene with Venom as number one.
Venom, yes. Yes, okay, right, because it ended with that and went into the credits, and everybody was hyped for the new Spider-Man suit. Then you go through the credits, and should we hold like overall reviews for the very end of everything, or you just want to do them real quick and then get into the post credits?
Wait, what? I don't know.
You want to do reviews for the movie before we do the post credits, or do you want to?
Yeah, sure. We could do that. I mean, I'll just say what I said at the beginning, that I liked everything about this. It was incredibly well executed, and I'm super excited to see. This was technically a trilogy, I think, but it feels like there's a 4th movie around the corner, and I'm sure there is.
Well, there's a whole nother trilogy coming, is what they've said. And basically what you got here was the high school years, and the next one's going to be the college years. And it's going to be dark because he's all by himself. And that's, I think we'll get into that. We'll get into that in a second.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite part about this whole thing, and this even's going to extend into the credit conversation, was that they've taken the properties that already exist because of the pre-Disney, rights sale to Sony, right? And they've said, okay, why are there 3 Spider-Man movies that have no connection? Well, this is why. Separate universes. Now we've brought them all together. It's all freaking resolved. Shut up. It can now be done any way we want. right?
now what more do you want? But don't worry,
Yeah,
the fans wanted more. We'll get into that in a second.
yeah.
I will say, out of all of this, like I said, I absolutely loved this movie. Like, and I've been on a high from Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I said it leading into the holiday season. Remember, I was like, this holiday season is epic for me. I've got Ghostbusters Afterlife, I've got Spider-Man No Way Home, right? I've got Book of Boba Fett, and it's all been turning up roses. So the asteroid's going to hit Earth anytime now. Because everything's been happening great right now. So the other shoe's going to drop and something's going to happen bad. This movie had me blown away. But one of the big things I took from this movie was I've always loved and appreciated, loved might have been strong up to this point, but appreciated Willem Dafoe as an actor, right? From Platoon and Boondock Saints. Like he's always been like these eccentric characters, and I've loved him. Even the original Spider-Man movie, right? I liked them a lot for what they did, even though I didn't like the suit. I thought it was ridiculous, but I got what they were trying to go for. What he did in this fucking movie blew my doors off. Right? He acted the shit out of this movie. Like if he was like, if this is the last time I'm ever going to play Norman Osborn, watch this shit, and he killed it in this movie, kind of literally, but like he was amazing in this fucking movie. And like I had like such a new appreciation for him after I walked out of that theater. I was like, wow, like that guy was fucking incredible in that movie. He played it perfect. And like you said, like leading into definitely what could be a fourth movie. There's gonna be a trilogy, like I said, but moving forward, this thing definitely opened up, obviously leads into everything else going into this phase of MCU. So I love this movie. So I mean, if you're at this point of this and you haven't watched it, sorry, we spoiled the fuck out of it. Go back, you know what? Go back and watch it again. Let us know what we missed in our review. How's that? Do that. All right. So now going into the post credits. First post credit scene. Let's flash back to a review we have not done yet. Venom 2, the very end of Venom 2, right? Eddie and Venom are in a little motel on a beach somewhere on an island, and Venom says to Eddie, or Eddie's talking to Venom about like, you know, you're supposed to be all powerful, whatever, and Venom says, "You don't understand. I'm part of a hive mind across universes, across millennia, and the fleeting little glimpse I could show you would blow your little mind." And Eddie's like, "Well, fine, show me a little bit." And Venom's like, "Okay, fine, just a little bit." And as soon as he's getting ready to do it, this gold wave that we know to be Doctor Strange's spell washes over them, and the whole room changes, right? And then Eddie stands up and is like, "What was that?" And Venom goes, "That wasn't me." And the TV had changed to J. Jonah Jameson in the MCU going, "Spider-Man is Peter Parker." And then you see Peter unmasked in the Spider-Man outfit. And he changes to Venom and he goes, "This guy," and licks the screen. And it was that little key, like, because I know we had talked about it, I think me and you briefly, away from Paul, because Paul hasn't fucking seen it yet, about that key thing where Venom's like, "I have a hive mind across universes." I said then, I'm like, I knew something was going to happen, right? When he said that. And so they brought him into the MCU. Then you and I were talking, and I was like, "Oh, he's going to be in No Way Home." They've been joking around about it for a while now. He's going to be in there, and he wasn't. And like you said, like you had an opportunity to do this whole Sinister Six thing, right? And Venom never showed up. So your first post credit scene opens up in a bar, and the bartender's standing there talking to somebody, and it cuts, and it's fucking Eddie Brock sitting in the bar. And he's like, "So let me get this straight. There's a guy, there's a big green guy, and Hulk. Yeah, he's a Hulk. Okay, that's Hulk. And then you've got, and like he's walking him through all the Avengers or whatever, and he's trying to learn about the heroes of this world. And he's like, Spider-Man. And he's like, yeah, Spider-Man, whatever. So Eddie's like, Venom goes, Eddie, we have to leave. You're drunk. And he's like, I'm just trying to learn what the hell is going on here. Right? He's trying to figure out what the world is. And Venom tells him, like, we're leaving. Say goodnight, you know? And right as Eddie gets up, the portal to take all the variants back kind of opens. He starts to disintegrate. Oh no, he says, Venom goes, well, what should we do? And Eddie goes, I think we should go to New York, find the Spider-Man guy, right? And then the thing opens, or he gets warped out. As he gets warped out, everybody in the theater was like, that was the whole fucking cameo. That's the whole setup to him going there. But then the camera pans down to the bar, and there's a little glob of Venom there. And at the first point, I was like disappointed because you don't get Tom Hardy's Venom against Tom Holland's Spider-Man, right? But then I also thought, I was like, oh, fuck. They literally just set up, because they said in the interviews, this next trilogy is going to be darker. They're setting up a whole trilogy where the MCU version of Venom is coming.
Mm-hmm.
And they can do it as comic accurate as they want or not. And because the variants sometimes look like each other and sometimes don't, the Eddie Brock in the MCU could be Tom Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to, like, because we had our complaints about Venom. Like, I had my complaints about Venom because I was like, how the fuck do you do Venom without Spider-Man? And I admitted
that's
that
what I said too. There is no Venom without Spider-Man.
Yes. But I think we both agreed that at least for what the movie was, we appreciated it. Like, it did a decent job. And most of it was on the shoulders of Tom Hardy. Like, he did a really good job of it, right? But there's no Venom without Spider-Man, period. The movie they made, we liked. But now, you've literally, like, wiped the slate clean, and the MCU can still use Tom Hardy. He doesn't have to be that down on, I mean, even in the comics, eventually, like, he is that, like, down on his luck, fired reporter, whatever, when he finds Venom.
Mm.
But they can tell that story differently and have that animosity between him and Peter Parker and this and that, or whatever you want to do, right? But you have this symbiote in the MCU now that is going to go find Spider-Man and Eddie Brock and whatever. And I think that's going to be a big part of this next trilogy, which is, to me, is fucking awesome. Like, they can just, okay, now we just solved that. Like you said, your multiverse, different Spider-Man and this and that, and Venom's over here and whatever. They just fucking smashed all that. Like, nope, here we go. Watch this shit. Now they have their own version of Venom they can run with in the MCU. What do you think?
Yeah. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
In fact, they might as well just merge them together. I mean, like, fully, because if they're sharing it, well, I guess they can't really, because they already established it's fully different universe, right?
Well, they've established a different Venom over there, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But
yeah. I mean, the Venom that
have Tom Hardy be Venom in this.
Yeah, actually, this gives the opportunity. You could, but you don't even need it, because this gives the opportunity to do what they skipped, which is Spider-Man in this black suit with the symbiote, right?
Yes. And then
so it can go the right way and go to him first, and then to the MCU's Eddie Brock.
Yes. And then that's what I'm not hoping. I know that's what they're going to do. I think just knowing, just from a creative standpoint, I know that's why they did that. This is what they're setting up, right? So we're going to get there. It's going to take a while because they've got a whole trilogy, and this movie just came out. But so all right, so they do that, right? So now you have more credits. Credits end, and you get the final post-credit scene. And for the first time in I don't know how long, Marvel turned around and did a full-blown trailer And you remember, like, we used to joke around about, in our talks among our podcasts, at some point, we talked about why trailers were called trailers was because they used to, the previews that they do nowadays in the beginning, right? They still call them trailers, but it's because way back in the day, they were at the end of the movie, right? Well, this movie shows a trailer, a full blown fucking trailer for Doctor Strange into the Multiverse of Madness. It opens up and it's Doctor Strange voicing over about the multiverse and he didn't mean to do what he did and this and that. And it's a full blown fucking trailer for Doctor Strange 2. And it's fucking amazing. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they show there's so much little shit in this trailer that, like, it's hard to catch on the first time, but then when you go back to YouTube after they drop the trailer, you're like, oh shit, like, 'cause basically, like, he does a voiceover of, it's like him and Wang or whoever, like, talking about how you messed with the multiverse, referring to the movie you just watched, and he's like, the repercussions are huge, and Doctor Strange like, I didn't mean for this to happen. And while that's all happening, like, you can see him in the streets of New York, and it looks like, do you remember the Doctor Strange What If issue
Yeah.
where it started to disintegrate? It looks exactly like that, right? And it cuts to him in a forest walking up on somebody, and he says Wanda, and Wanda Maximoff turns around, right? So it's Scarlet Witch, and he comes to her, and she's like, I made mistakes, and he says, I'm not here for that. I need your help. And she's like, what do you need? And so then they cut to a whole bunch of little action shots throughout the trailer, and you see her and her Scarlet Witch shit doing spells or whatever. You see him in the streets. There's a shot there where there's a one-eyed alien demon creature thing in the street that he's fighting, and it looks very similar to one of the lesser beings in the What If comic that came out, right? That he was fighting, or in the cartoon, right? And the tentacle thing, right?
Yeah.
It looks like that. And he's fighting that thing, and there's a whole bunch of different fight scenes. But there is a brief shot right toward the end of the trailer where it looks like he launches the tentacles just like he did in the What If thing when he absorbed all the dark magic, right, from that monster. It looks like he's like, but it's not him, it's the dark, because they say the greatest threat to the multiverse is you. And then it shows Doctor Strange, but he looks darker. And he launches these tentacles or whatever. And then the last shot in the trailer is a very dark, almost black and white Doctor Strange. And he says something, but something ominous. But you realize
He says things just got out of hand.
things just got ahead, yeah. And you realize, I think that's the Doctor Strange from the What If series that we just watched. Like, it's exactly like it's Benedict Cumberbatch, but in live action. But that's the same fucking character, and you're like, oh shit! Like they're tying it all together. The What If series, all of it is getting tied together in this fucking movie.
Yeah.
And I got so excited for this damn movie. I was like, and I just got done watching one of the most amazing movies I've ever seen in my life. And I was just like, well, all right, Doctor Strange 2 can't come here quick enough.
Yeah. Right.
What did you think?
Yeah, man. The same thing. I definitely got the What If vibes. Like that was the Strange Supreme, sucked up all the
Strange
power.
Supreme, thank you.
Yeah, sucked up all the power from the other beings or whatever, so he could try to reverse the death of his lover, right? Yeah, yeah, and ultimately destroys the universe. So this gives him, interestingly, gives Strange himself as the big bad in Doctor Strange too. But I mean, I think it's spot on too.
Yeah, and it's funny too because everybody kept saying after WandaVision that she was going to be the antagonist in Doctor Strange 2. And I said at the time too, I was like, I don't know, because they set her up like she wasn't completely bad. Now they could twist it because she's still after her kids, right? They could twist that, but I think they're just going to play around with that whole multiverse. Like his spell at the end of Spider-Man did not work right. Let's get into theories now. Okay, so obviously the multiverse, something's still going wrong. Like he didn't fix it completely. Um, I'm sure she's still aware of the multiverse because she heard her kids and she's probably still after them. Probably in that conversation, she's going to explain to him what happened to her and that she's looking for her kids. I'll jump back on the Mephisto bandwagon. I bet you're probably going to see something with him in there because he's connected to those kids somehow. So
Yeah,
something
well,
happened.
this is sort of an aside. I think we might have said in the beginning we were going to talk about this, but I think the rule that was established in this movie was that people who knew Peter's identity were the ones that came through, right? And
Yes.
so,
Oh, yes, because that was one of my things I wanted to rail against, but I never did.
well, so I mean, you have Sandman, Norman Osborn, Connors, I guess, Eddie Brock for sure. I mean, maybe not in their universes per se, but in the comics at least, those
Well,
people have
no, because
all.
um, Doc Ock knew he found out Peter was Spider Man toward the
Yeah,
end.
Doc
When
Ock, Electro, all of those make sense. What I'm getting is that we're
oh,
missing
Electro
people.
Electro didn't.
Electro didn't know who he was.
Electro never in the. I'll have to go back and watch that movie again, but that's one of the things, and I've heard it online a few times. Electro never realized who he was, and he even says it. There's another thing in there that when they cure him and he's sitting with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, like his Spider-Man, uh Spider-Man unmasks himself to talk to him, and Electro's like, oh wow. He's like, he's like, being from the Bronx or from Queens, or where the fuck they were from, being from Queens, and looking out for all the people in the street. I just thought you'd be a black kid, right? and Andrew laughs. He's like, yeah, sorry. And the last thing Max says before like you see him fade away later is, "Oh, I'm sure there's got to be a black Spider-Man out there somewhere." And everybody in the theater cheered because they were,
Yeah.
obviously yet another nod to Miles, right?
Hmm.
So he didn't know. So how the fuck did he get sucked in? So that's one of those little.
I wasn't necessarily going down that path. I was saying who's missing. But
Okay.
well, but it doesn't really matter that much. It just all I was getting at is this could be a way that they're gonna tie in other villains we're missing that we expect to see, like Craven the Hunter.
Oh yeah. No, I think the multiverse. I think Doctor Strange is going to help set up the rest of the Spider-Man movies because now those two are very interlinked. I mean, there's going to be a lot of overlap between those two movies. Yeah, I'm sure they're going to do Craven and Craven's Last Hunt. That would be amazing. I love to see them get like Joe Manganiello or even Jason Momoa. And they've talked about recently. They've talked big time that Jason Momoa is in talks, and if he could do it, woof, that'd be cool. Uh, I don't know. We'll see where they're going to go with that. But the Doctor Strange thing, I mean, I think you're going to see Wanda save her kids, and it's going to open up the multiverse. Now you're going to get into not necessarily spoiler territory, but heavy rumor territory. Uh, the rumors are going full blown out of like they're fucking like full blown wackaloon. Like they're pulling everything out of the woodwork. Um, the heaviest rumor I've heard so far is, and there's no reason not to do it, because now they are in like, every movie has reshoots. We know that. But apparently Doctor Strange has gone back for multiple big reshoots, and from what I've read, everybody thinks it's because of these little cameos they're trying to do now. They're trying to fill in little gaps in here and there with the cameos. But the biggest cameo so far that I've heard, that's not a confirmed rumor, but it's the heaviest rumor, is Patrick Stewart as Professor X
Mhm.
coming back, right? That's the heaviest one. Obviously, they're always, Hugh Jackman, Wolverine. Uh, he has said he's done after Logan. He's repeatedly said he's done after Logan. He's even online tweeting out, "Tell Ryan Reynolds to stop, leave me alone." Fucking with him. Uh, and we've said on this podcast that we don't believe Ryan Reynolds will die until he makes a Deadpool Wolverine movie. Um, I think you're gonna see Hugh Jackman
Really?
because
I mean,
I
it's
just
possible. I guess if
well,
you're trying to,
he tweeted out a picture of him getting a vaccine booster, and when he tweeted it out, the first comments everybody made was, "This son of a bitch is in Wolverine shape again," and his arms were fucking jacked, like he's jacked again. So I wouldn't put it past him. I mean, again, like we said, Hugh Jackman could say he's done playing Wolverine, but and again, they do have to move past him in order to carry it on to the MCU version of the X-Men, because they have to. He's just getting too old. But again, they've been nodding to the fans a lot, and to get that one last fan nod with Hugh Jackman, and to just do a little nice fan service and do whatever they want to do, this is the perfect opportunity. And then probably a quick Deadpool Wolverine movie to just do this one time real quick. Disney's just going to dump a shit ton of money on his porch and be like, You have to. You just have to do this. We need you." And he'll do it, because I mean, he said how much he loves the character, loves it. And he did say years ago, when the Avengers were coming up and this and that, but when he was getting to the tail end of playing Wolverine, that one of the ways he would ever come back to play Wolverine was if he could play with the Avengers. Like he said, he would love to see his Wolverine with the Avengers.
Mhm.
So I think you're gonna see it. Um, you've got a bunch of other rumors. Now we know America Chavez from the comics is going to be in this as somebody from another universe that's running around, and that's who you see Doctor Strange protecting in the trailer, trying to help her. So she's definitely from another multiverse or another universe. That's the multiverse is open. Um, Rumors have been that you're going to see. Uh, this is a key way for them to bring Robert Downey Jr. back as Iron Man one more time.
Ugh.
Just to give the fan pop in the theater, right? Have him show up. But the other one that I laughed at, but I thought was like, it would be really funny. There's been a meme for a while of, and I know you've seen it. If they made the Avengers in the '90s and they had like Brad Pitt as Thor and this guy is right, and they had all the '90s actors, and they had Tom Cruise as Tony Stark,
Iron Man. Yeah.
Iron Man, right? Another big rumor that's just come out in the last few weeks is that Tom Cruise is showing up as an alternate Iron Man. I'm like, if they do that, like if this movie is not fan service, like that's the key. That's gonna be fan service. That's gonna be like, look, hey, look, we did everything. Because that was the other thing too. I had read or heard that before they locked down Robert Downey Jr., they were looking at Tom Cruise, and then and I can't see anybody doing a better job than Robert Downey Jr. But I get what they were going for when they were trying to get Tom Cruise, if they were trying to do that. But if they get him to come in and cameo as an alternate Tony Stark, that'd be fucking hilarious. It'd be great. So I don't know. There's a bunch of variant heroes that, and then again with the multiverse, like you said, this is your way to pull in. Because I heard John Krasinski is coming in as Reed Richards, which is another thing that fans want. So you get your Fantastic Four cameo in here before their movie shows up, and they're pushing that more and more. There's more and more news coming out about signing the director and this and that for Fantastic Four, like you said. So uh, they can do anything with this fucking movie.
Yeah, it's certainly limitless at this point. I mean, I hope they don't just infinitely leave open this sort of multiverse thing, but it does let them sort of correct some older errors, explain away other movies, but I hope they at some point close it and there's just not a constant. Although, to be fair, in the comics, they really haven't done that. They just carried on with the,
There
you
are
know,
other universes. Now, if they did something like because I agree with you, to just have a multiverse constantly going on will be a headache for
it
fans.
feels cheap. And it's also, you can only do so much before it's like, oh yeah, that's Spider-Man. That's Peter number 17 from Earth 2020 2020. I don't know, whatever the fuck it is.
Right,
But
right. Yeah. If they did something where, like you said, they use this movie to kind of round out some of the rough edges they've had coming into this whole thing, right? They smooth it all out where, oh, okay, this, tweak that, right? But then he's able to really do the spell with Wanda's help and shut down the multiverse after she's got her twins, because they're going to come forward in Young Avengers. We know that. So after she's got her twins back, and after they fix whatever they got to fix, if they shut down the multiverse, and then the only key you have left to jump from reality to reality when they need it would be America Chavez, I'm good with that. Like her reality or her multiverse jumping powers come into play once in a blue moon, I'm okay with that.
yeah.
All right. So, oh, and something else I thought of as we were talking about multiverse and future movies and shit. So, we know we have Secret Invasion coming up, right? And the only thing they've done on Secret Invasion was that one shot of a longer bearded, older Nick Fury, right? And then it's a Secret Invasion.
Mhm.
In this movie, in No Way Home, uh, Peter says to the Damastro people, call Nick Fury, he'll vouch for me. And they say, Nick Fury's been off world for over a year. And he's like, what? Because remember
Oh
in the
yeah,
last movie,
yeah.
in the last movie, he was talking to Nick Fury. It turned out to be a Skrull. So they're leading that was a little like nod to what's coming up in Secret Invasion. And I was like, oh fuck yeah, I forgot about that. So yeah, so you got that coming too, which would be cool because then again, just in that line alone, it's kind of a nod to what happened in the comics where you had heroes from different parts of the comics were taken at different points and taken over by Skrulls, and you didn't know who was a Skrull and who wasn't, whatever. So leading into Secret Invasion, and I don't even know what the hell it's going to be, if it's going to be a series or it's going to be a movie, but
It's a mini series, yeah.
mini series, okay. Uh, that could be epic. They can just touch on all kinds of random shit throughout the MCU, where much like they did with What If, like, oh no, this guy you thought was your hero, no, he's actually that's a Skrull. Nick Fury just saved him from the Skrulls. So yeah, they can do a lot of fun with that too. So yeah, we got a lot of shit. God, so much coming up.
There is a lot coming, yeah.
All right. Got anything else on this movie other than the fact that it was epic?
Uh No, I mean, one more time, really, 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 really well done. Loved all the tie-ins. Being a Venom is my favorite anti-hero in the whole damn thing. I love that they put that little mid-credits thing at the end there that gives them a way to bring him to the MCU.
Yeah.
And the real Venom that,
Yes.
well,
The
if they do
correct.
it right, the real Venom that has a legitimate reason to hate and hunt Spider-Man. I mean,
Yes. Yes. And like I said, knowing what they've said about the next trilogy being a darker period in Peter's life, I was like, oh, I know exactly what they're doing. So, well, I might not know exactly what they're doing. Yeah, I think this is going to be really good, and it's going to be an amazing Venom storyline. So, all right, cool. So I guess that's it for Spider-Man: No Way Home. Let us know what you thought of the movie. Comment down below, like you never do, but try it now. Give it a shot. Maybe one of us will see it. Like, subscribe, ring a bell. Hit us up at whatifgeeks.com, whatifgeeks@gmail.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And we will catch you for the next Boba Fett review. And Eric and I will jump on and do Ghostbusters Afterlife. I think we'll do next. What do you think?
okay.
All right.
Or Venom Let There Be Carnage, since you're just talking about the damn thing.
Well, yeah. We got a few we got to do. So we'll knock out a couple of reviews for you that we're late on, as always. All right, that's it. We will see you guys next week. Good night, Tony.
Good night, Aunt May. Forever.
Wow. All right.